Good evening and welcome to Food for Mzansi's Gather to Grow. My name is Dawn Numdu. I'm the editor for audience and engagement at Food for Mzansi. And tonight we're talking summer loving. I'm not alone. I'm joined by Noluthando Ngakani, our very own agri aunt. I'm sure you know her as Liva Lulu. Welcome, Liva Lulu.
Dumelang Dawn, Dumelang Mzansi. I'm so happy that I could be joining you on this space. Summer loving and all these kinds of topics are my favorite.
Yes, for sure. And we're not alone. We have our guest this evening, Evelyn. Evelyn is also here to join us. Evelyn, you're our expert here tonight. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then Lulu will take it from there.
I'm a clinical psychologist. I have been for many, many, many years. Work in Cape Town. I trained in the US and a little bit in South Africa. Worked in the US. By no means a love doctor, but I know something about it, so for sure.
Thanks so much, Evelyn, for joining us. Great to have you with us. So, Lulu, I think you have some letters you'd like to read. People who might not know you, Agony On start, what, is it almost a year ago?
Yeah, I'm actually going on my 2-year Lulu anniversary in February 2020. The whole purpose of Leave a Lulu is that, people kind of forget that farmers are actually human and they're not just there to put, food on our tables. Leave a Lulu, I do receive letters from all over the country, and I am actually here to exclusively only offer my shoulders for farmers to cry on whenever they're going through it. So I did pick out some of my favorite letters that I'd actually like to get some insights from you, Evelyn.
Yeah, no, I think it's a brilliant initiative that you've started. I think it's a neglected demographic for sure.
The first letter that I'd like to kick off, I've titled a bit of Summer Loving Never Hurt Nobody. A cattle farmer. So the letter reads, as a cattle farmer, the only action I have seen was during mating season. To get away and de-stress from the hectic year that was, I am planning a cross-country girls' trip to Hartbeespoort and eventually Cape Town. So she says that your girl has needs, and she's wondering if you have any guidance to offer on summer things.
Oh, dear. You don't need to get away to de-stress, this kind of stress. You don't need to go very far, maybe just to your room. But anyway, she does want to get away from wherever she is. I don't know where she is that you would consider Hartbeespoort and eventually Cape Town compatible destinations, but it's not for me to question that. All women have needs, and I am wondering if you have any guidance. Honey, yeah, I have lots of guidance. But I say before you start with an actual man and you break that stocky, I suggest you get yourself a dildo. And I recommend the Lilo.
Oh, the Lilo.
Yeah.
Is it like a brand of sex toys or?
Yes, it's the world's best highest-selling dildo. If you just Google it, the Lilo. I think you can get it through Amazon. I mean, I know you can. But there's also a sex shop here in Cape Town that stocks it. And people tell me it's changed their lives. I would suggest that rather than if the only exposure this lady's had is to agricultural. I mean, there's a big jump from agriculture to actual living, breathing human male. I would transition it with a bit of a robot,
I don't know, Dawn, if you had any...
No, I'm giggling like a schoolgirl here, Evelyn. But I was not expecting that as your first response and for us just to hit with get yourself a dildo, but I'm definitely for it. So great advice. Thanks so much.
I'm not saying it to be weird or anything, but look where this is coming from. I mean, she's a cattle farmer and she says she's got needs. I mean, come on, those two sentences together, it's not good. There's no other mention of another human being. Is she, for example, going to do this trans South Africa trip on her own? I mean, and she's got needs on her own while she's crossing our beautiful land. I don't think she's ready for an actual human.
So you don't always need a man and stuff to de-stress.
Oh, please. But you often do. But men just need men. No. I'm not one of these people who the male toxicity. No, it's okay.
Thanks so much, Evelyn. Okay, Lulu, what is your next letter?
My next letter is titled Too Broke to Love. So our letter reads that I am a firm believer in gender equality and love to spoil my man. But I cannot keep up this charade of having to always spend continuously for dates. She asks if people who are not in the same kind of financial bracket can ever make it work because she's bleeding cash and she just can't keep up with this man.
Yeah, it's sad, huh? Basically, this guy's like some toy boy. She's paying him for pleasure. It's nothing wrong with that, but it's breaking the bank. So, it's not sustainable. But I mean, there is another aspect to that, and that is that she is in effect controlling him with money and gifts. I don't know if she's aware of that. Because, it should be give and take. I mean, he should be gifting her things. Now, if she stops gift things and he just disappears into the night, then she'll know, what he is made of. He's a real gigolo. And he's at best a toy boy. We hope this guy is a boy and not just a gigolo. I say good riddance to him. I mean, really, a man's got to treat his partner like a queen, whether she's a queen or not. He should start buying her gifts. I mean, I'm all for equitable exchange of goods as a sign of love. It's a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful thing. But it can't be one-sided. That's wrong at so many levels. What do you guys think? If a woman had to buy you gifts all the time, how would it make you feel?
Mikado would like to, he requested to become a speaker. Maybe he could share his insights. Mikado, you can take the floor.
I actually have a question. Good afternoon. I thought this is about agripreneurs, so I connected to this page because I thought I might pick up some business with farmers in the industry. I'm in the refrigeration trucking. and I'm taking farmers' products to the markets. And here I'm listening to, maybe I should reinterpret what summer loving is.
Mikado, we generally do talk about all things farming, but we realized that farmers want love too. And so we decided to keep it light for this week, seeing that we're in the festive mood, everyone's relaxed. Nice. But generally, we do talk about hardcore farming topic on these sessions.
All right. But Evelyn, to answer you, I would be very uncomfortable. I mean, I'm a bit old school. It's okay if she pays for a meal here and there, or maybe on a road trip, fill up the tank and I cover the rest. But this constant, it's unhealthy and it can become toxic. And the person can become manipulative at the end of the day.
Correct.
I don't know the person. In this day and age, we should learn.
I think you're so right. I mean, I don't think there's anything in principle wrong with gifting a guy. But if it's all one-sided, I mean, it's just not healthy, is it?
True.
Relationships are always give and take. It's not like a one-way street.
For sure.
Let me continue to listen to the dildo professionals.
You're not allowed to leave now that you've joined in and made such a valuable contribution. You stay where you are, Mr. Ricardo.
I'll remain.
Okay, Lulu, I think there's one more letter, and then we'd like to maybe talk about some of other aspects of relationships, building a solid relationship. But I think you have one more letter for us.
The next one is more about ghosting. So our letter reads, I've been ghosted yet again, third time in a row for me. So she met Jabu on Tinder and they dated for a month, but he slowly started to grow kind of tired of her. She would usually let bygones be bygones and let sleeping dogs lie, but this time she just couldn't take it lying down anymore and confronted him about it. So he went on to explain that she was not wife material enough for him to take their relationship seriously, and she says that she naturally felt kind of worthless after he dropped this bomb. So she's 26, she's in the poultry business, and she wants to know, how does she hit restart and stop feeling like there's something wrong with her?
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this lady. It's so sad that she would even think there is. I mean, this guy's a loser and he's an abuser. What a creep. She should drop him fast in a heartbeat. She should block him forever. No explanations required, and she must get on with her life. I mean, he was just an unfortunate lesson that we all go through. She's only 26. She's got the rest of her life ahead of her. This is not a reflection on her. It's a reflection of him. What a dreadful person he is. She should never, ever give him the opportunity to ghost her, or if he does, she should haunt him till the day he dies. And then some.
I love that, Evelyn.
But what a bastard. I mean, telling her she's not wife material enough.
What even is wife material?
Exactly. Look, they only dated for a month, hey? So that's not a long time. But for him to date for a month and then be sis, I think it's so ugly. Like, it's just a month. You could say, listen, I think, we're not that suited. But to actually say you're not wife material is vicious.
Dawn, I don't know if you had a question there, but I do actually have one. So I wanted to know from this letter now that we've come out of, Evelyn, in your opinion, what are some of the biggest myths about love and the relationships that we kind of buy into?
In my view, the biggest myth is that in a relationship, you can't express negative emotion or bring anything negative into the relationship. Because it's a cherished space and it's a beautiful thing of love and everybody loves everybody. But in reality, you have to be able to bring negative emotion. By negative emotion, I mean bring your baggage and the things that are worrying you, and they can be very negative. You can have a terrible day at work and you can be really at breaking point. You've got to be able to bring those emotions to your partner without fear of freaking your partner out. Because, if you can't bring your negative emotions home, where the hell are you supposed to take them? What must you do with your feelings? You want that safe space at home where you can tell your beloved, even if it's in the early stages, not yet beloved, but potential partner, got to be able to tell them all this stuff. And they have got to be able to take it and listen to it, process it, and just be there for you. And it's just a myth that we can't swear, we can't break things, we can't have temper tantrums, we can't cry. Men can't cry, women can't break a against a wall out of frustration. What a lot of rubbish. Have you ever seen an Italian family really go at it? There'll be nothing standing left at the end of the night. But I mean, that is a cultural difference.
Evelyn, I think you make a lot of good points. And I think we have another speaker, Nicole, would also like to join and ask a question.
Lovely.
Perhaps, Nicole, the floor is yours.
Hi, guys. I actually pressed the request button by accident. Since I'm a speaker now, I'll just make a comment on it later as well. I'm also trying to date people in between, working and just existing. And I find that a lot of people get really mean when you as a person don't meet exactly what they think a man or a woman should be. So, the wife material thing, for instance. Mm-hmm. So they've got this great idea that a wife does A, B, C, and D. And therefore, if you don't meet those criteria, there must be something wrong with you. But the fact simply is that different things work for different people. And what one person would consider in a partner, another person may not. So for me, it seems like a very kind of obvious thing to say, but I feel like a lot of people struggle with that. If someone is 26 and gets told the orange wifey material, it's just most likely for that person and they shouldn't take it personally. But anybody who also says that to someone else is probably a jerk and you should probably stay away from them.
Don't you think, Nicole, that it's a very intense and extreme thing to say?
I think it's something that you say to someone when you mean to hurt them.
Exactly right. Exactly. Yeah. And after a month, why would you want to do that? If it's after a month, you would just say, listen, this is not really gelling, or I don't know, I'm moving to Bloemfontein by something like that. But it seems vicious.
I haven't maybe dated that much, but the people who have been kind of cruel or mean to me are people who always, I don't want to say really people because I feel like it's an issue with men, but that's, my personal thing. I think that a lot of men particularly don't like women who are not traditional. In theory, they like women who are sort of independent and, sort of anti-tradition and that kind of thing. But when it comes to the practical application of it, they're not into it.
They resent it.
Exactly, they resent it.
That's interesting. Nicole, do you think it's because most people in a relationship want to be number one in the relationship, there's a competition going on? I mean, with this chick who used to buy the gifts for the guy, she did it because it was a power struggle. She wanted to spend more money on him to have be in power, in control. Do you think control is a big issue in relationships that don't work?
Absolutely. If you think about sort of how relationships are traditionally handled in South Africa, because we are a fairly conservative country, I think. With men, usually the control comes through money. It's unusual for a woman, but if women have control issues, their control issues normally manifest in other ways. I think there are a lot of people who need to feel as if they are the leader in the relationship, which is sounds exhausting.
I think we've hit on a very interesting topic, Nicole. Just maybe in the farming milieu, if you like, in that demographic, women are really coming into their own, and it's a very traditional male-dominated field. Maybe they're even more threatened than would be, say, bankers or accountants or salesmen. You know what I mean? Maybe farmers are super at risk.
I just wanted to make one comment about a previous discussion we had on this point exactly. A lot of women who were on the previous session spoke about trying to find love and also being very fearful of the fact that men or women would come to them and see their success and look at what they have and not be there genuinely just to love them or to be with them, for example. It's one of the aspects that was brought up in our last conversation, similar to this one.
They almost do it for clout, almost.
Yeah, they do it for clout. It is for status. You're so right. Hey? So people are constantly jostling with one another to be one up. I mean, a relationship can never work like that. Do you guys agree?
Of course, I do agree.
Yeah.
Actually, I had a question about the typical ways of kind of sabotaging love relationships. Are there any basic rules kind of fighting fair?
Oh, heavens, yes. There's definite rules which you have to follow if you want to fight fair. Actually, only 8. The first rule, they say, is don't make sarcastic or insulting remarks about your partner's sexual adequacy. This generates resentment and makes you open for attack, and it's just a dirty way to fight. That's point number 1. Point number 2, don't bring up the names of former marriage partners, lovers, boyfriends, girlfriends to illustrate how all these problems didn't happen with them. Stick to one issue. Stick to your relationship with your current partner. Point number 3, don't say it's like, the problem is that you've got a narcissistic personality. All the psychobabble is all rubbish. It's not helpful to the other person to have a label. And by the way, all these personality disorders, narcissistic, borderline, they're all going away next year. So we won't be talking about them anyway. So don't do that. Number 4, don't threaten, I'm going to tell your parents, or I'm leaving, I'm going, because it's like ganging up on your partner. You're acting like a child. You're saying, I'm going to tell my parents, or I'm going to tell your parents, or I'm going to go home. It's a very childish response to conflict. Then if you have kids, don't bring them into any argument for that matter. It's just too stressful to bring children into an emotional thing and force them to take sides between you and your partner. And then don't engage in dumping. That means don't store up all the things that have been worrying you for months and months and then dump them all at one time. I mean, really, that's enough to give someone a nervous breakdown. Number 7, don't hit and run. Don't bring up a serious negative problem when there's no opportunity to solve the thing, such as when you're on your way going to work or when guests are coming for dinner. I mean, that is not the time to pressurize your partner into silence and freak them out for the whole evening so that they start drinking heavily, and just what a bad thing to do. Also, finally, don't focus on who's to blame. Focus on what the solutions are, not who's at fault, not who's to blame. Because if you avoid blaming, it lets both you and your partner still save face. You can come out of this okay. You'll both feel better, So those are like really basic relationship 101.
Thank you, Evelyn. And then don't you have anything to add there?
That was so much sound advice. I actually heard myself saying amen to that. Probably because I caught myself either doing that to a partner or a partner actually doing that to me. So I think I have caught myself in a few of those situations. But just to come back to Nicole's point, and maybe something that's a little bit more relevant to today, how does one really navigate dating and, meeting people with COVID? There's so many dating platforms, there's so many things that you join, and it becomes so, okay, we'll message each other for a while, maybe we'll meet for coffee, maybe we won't, maybe we'll hook up, maybe we won't. I find it to be a little bit more difficult now than ever to find partners and to be with people and to be open and trust enough in a way.
Are you finding that people are hesitant to commit to an actual face-to-face meeting?
I'm just thinking about generally, I don't know if it's maybe hesitant, but also maybe because you're not even sure. Because COVID is so real and in your face. I mean, we're dealing with the fourth wave now. And people usually, they're either isolating or they try to stick in the same circle. So you tend to be with the same people all the time unless you're a little bit more brave and want to put yourself out there. But it has really put in a damper on meeting new people and finding ways to connect and make other connections.
I mean, one would use Zoom or something like that because, Zoom is a very powerful interactive tool. You can't hide much with Zoom. You've got to keep the conversation flowing.
Yeah, so setting up more Zoom dates would be the answer.
Definitely. Zoom is a lovely thing because it's a buffer between you and that person. So you can turn away and look out the window and at the same time deliver a whole lot of cuck baggage at the same time. You don't have to look into the person's eyes. It's not so intense. You can get up, you can, get something to drink and then come back. And it doesn't have to be like you're sitting there glued to the other person on the screen. It can be quite chilled, and actually in that environment, people reveal a hell of a lot about themselves that they wouldn't do in person. It's interesting.
I see Mikado has his hand up. I hope I'm saying your name right. Please correct me if I'm not.
Mikado, right. Perfect. Same as I'm the one that talks, the other one used to sing. Can you please, Evelyn, repeat bullet point number 6? I might have missed something there before I respond.
Sure. Do you mean about the dumping? So in other words, don't store up problems for months and months and months.
Yes.
And then dump it on your partner at one time. Here's a whole tsunami of it.
There you go.
Sweet, like a sweet little lamb up to now, but now, shit, I've had enough today. Now I'm going to let you have it. Do you remember 22 months ago when we were standing in line for those tickets and what I said to you when that woman in the sequin dress walked past? Don't do that.
Yes. No, I wanted to respond to that. What really, really helped me in my last relationship is every Tuesday we have a check-in session around the dinner table. What are the things in the past 2 weeks that you have picked up that kind of bothered you, but we haven't had the opportunity to talk about it based on our hectic lives and all the kind of things. And sometimes when we put something aside, we think, things are now happy-go-lucky in Garden of Eden. Let's forget about that. But it comes up and it boils up. So that check-in session is crucial.
You are so right. I think your weekly, I love it that it's around the table because it's, food, it's comfort, it's the family. Oh, it's just beautiful music to my ears.
I used to use the example that Jesus communicated the most difficult news around the dinner table. People are more responsive when you feed them.
Yes.
During Judas' betrayal. So that is for me important.
I never thought of that. That's so beautiful. It's like Boekefat in the old days, but it's more than that.
Thank you so much, Mikado. You're really contributing tonight. Thank you so much for that. I'll definitely try that one as well in any of my future relationships.
I just wanted to circle back to another thing that Nicole said about, how kind of dating in today's landscape is very complicated, Evelyn. Dawn was the one that mentioned that we kind of stick to our circles. And I think that's sometimes because you're scared of putting yourself out there because of rejection. How do you deal with rejection?
This is one of my favorite questions. People ask me about how to deal with rejection all the time, whether they're teenagers, how nasty they can be, or whether it's young mothers who are not being accepted by their kids' other mothers, or whether it's a partner at a professional firm. People hate being rejected. The way to dissolve the situation is to realize it's not about emotion. It's got nothing to do with your feelings. All that is happening is you're exchanging information about yourself with another adult, presumably healthy adult, we hope. Healthy adult information exchange. There's no room for emotion, even though we hope it leads to an emotional connection. There's no room for emotion. It is purely an exchange of information. Henceforth, if there is a rejection, it's not a rejection of you, the person, your own selfhood, your identity, what rubbish. It's a cool, calm, collected evaluation of information that simply doesn't appeal. It's no more and no less.
I'm touched on my studio there. Dawn, I don't know if you had also another question to add there.
But does that make sense to people, that it's not all about emotion? Just because you're looking for somebody to be emotionally involved with doesn't mean you have to be super emotional about everything.
We totally get you, Evelyn.
I'm very much touched on my studio there. Because we always take things like rejection as like a personal attack, man.
And it's so not. It's just an evaluation of information, and it's a mismatch of information. It won't work, and that's fine. Goodbye.
Deuces.
I love it so much, Lulu. Maybe we can move on a little bit and also just talk about, once you're now set on being with the specific partner, how do you build sort of a solid relationship with this person? What are the questions that you should be asking yourself and each other when saying, okay, we're now agreed, we're in it?
There are such beautiful questions, and this is actually a validated psychological test. And so these questions, they might seem very basic, but they are so important. There are 20 of them. Can I just tell you how you score it? So if you answer yes or no, you must answer yes often, and your partner must answer yes often. Then you'll know if your relationship is solid. If you count the numbers of yeses that you give and you count the number of yeses and nos your partner gives, you'll have an idea of whether you're more into your partner or your partner is more into you. And of course, this is for all genders, binary, non-binary, for all of them. And we hope that they will also all participate in this, should that pronoun apply. Number one, my partner seeks out my opinion. That's like a huge one. If somebody doesn't ask you your opinion, they're not that into you. Number two, my partner cares about my feelings. Number three, I don't feel ignored very often. Number four, we touch each other a lot. Number five, we listen to each other. Number six, we respect each other's ideas. Number seven, we are affectionate toward one another. It's not the same as touching. Number eight, I feel my partner takes good care of me. 9, what I say counts. Number 10, I am important in our decisions. 11, there's lots of love in our relationship. 12, we are genuinely interested in one another. 13, I love spending time with my partner. 14, we are very good friends. 15, Even during rough times, we can be empathic. That's so important, that if your partner's feeling like shit, that you can be compassionate and mother or father your partner through a terrible time. 16, my partner is considerate of my viewpoint. 17, my partner finds me physically attractive. 18, my partner expresses warmth to me. So not a bloody ice cube that you're living with. 19, I feel included in my partner's life. Number 20, this is so important. My partner admires me. So if you answered yes to fewer than 7 items, it's likely that you're not feeling loved and respected in this relationship.
So vibes must align, essentially.
Yes, exactly right. It's just like caring. Would you like a cup of coffee? Do you want to talk now? Do you want to talk another time? What will suit you? I think it all comes down to respect. Like, is it convenient to talk now? And the partner will say, does it fucking look like it's a good time? I'm going to kill that. Oh, no, then that's not a good time. So you have to suss out the situation. And just like sitting on the sofa next to your partner watching TV, you can just take your partner's hand and say, babe, it's times like this when I just love being with you. That's so warm, isn't it?
Evelyn, the things that you're describing, is it the same as love languages? I always hear people say that, but I'm not too clued up, but it sounds similar.
It sounds similar, but it's not the same. The love languages is a more recent thing. We as clinical psychologists don't recognize yet the love languages as a valid instrument or way to classify communicative styles in relationships. I know a lot of counselors use it, a lot of other people use it. As a clinical psychologist, it hasn't been validated. So I'm afraid I can't tell you whether somebody who loves music is a good match for somebody who likes buying chocolate,
Oh, I think I misunderstood what love languages were, because
I think I misunderstand.
I think Evelyn, they kind of consider it almost like a pseudo psychology.
Yeah, it's not. It's not for us.
field.
We don't recognize it yet, but we also a lot behind sometimes. But as yet, we don't recognize it as a thing in psychology. So sorry, I can't answer you there. But if you're finding that you're expressing yourself in one way, let's say you love expressing yourself by, say, cooking, just thumbs up, cooking. This person, is one of these people who eats to live and doesn't live to eat. Then, that's not going to work. To know somebody's love language to figure that one out. So then I would just look at another area where you do have commonality, maybe.
The vibes don't align. Yeah. I think Mikati's hand is up.
That's quite interesting. Can we say that even though it's not recognized in the field of psychology, we still see it in human behavior. Look at our parents, the language of communicating instead of verbalizing is a doer. And some of us,
okay. So you mean that a lot of men like to fix problems and a woman will want to talk and talk and talk and talk and then some more? Is that what you mean?
showing affection, what affection means to us, not gender-based, but also personality-based. I'm not sure if you guys have said the 5 love languages in terms of how we communicate love based on our personality types or traits.
You see, traits, behavior traits, things you inherit and that constitute your personality. It does not explain all crazy, successful relationships that stand the test of time. I mean, for example, I know of somebody who is a complete fitness fanatic, who doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, is in the health professions, but is married to an alcoholic, chain-smoking woman, and they've been married for nearly 40 years, and they adore one another. How do you explain that?
We communicate affection through, some of us are doers, some of us are more verbal than others. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So you talk about the love languages that's not recognized in that particular field, but it still exists in human behavior. You hear what I'm saying? And
So
how do we pick it up as a love language, even though it's not my love language?
Well, you don't need to have a love language to be in sync with your partner. All you need to do is to understand your partner's intent in communicating and what the effect is. You know, you want to communicate in such a way, irrespective of your love language. You want your intent that you're trying to communicate have the desired impact. You see, one can have the best intention in the world, but if it's not going to have the right impacts on your partner, you might as well not bother. It's important to learn how to communicate with a strategic intention that your partner's going to relate to, and that the impact of your message is not going to destroy your relationship.
Got you.
So that's far more important than what mode you're doing it in, whether you're doing it through fixing or asking for help, or I don't know what these different languages are. I'm sorry, we're a bit behind with that in psychology at the moment. So matching the intention that you're trying to hurt somebody. You think your partner's a bit jealous of somebody on your cell phone. You don't want to communicate to your partner and make them even more freaked out and threatened that you think they're looking at your cell phone. Your intention is to get at the truth. Are they actually? And your partner, on the other hand, wants to know, do you have a scallop on the side? Actually, your needs are the same, and you can talk about it in a way that's confrontational, actually. You can say, I was wondering if I was wondering if you think that I am seeing someone on the side. You can sort of play around with it, because that is a common one, believe me. Once you diffuse it like that, you see how the person reacts, but it doesn't have to be a disaster. I think that's what I'm trying to say. But that, of course, does not answer your thing about the different love modes. I really can't comment on that, Ricardo.
Thanks, Evelyn. I'm actually glad I stumbled upon this page.
We're happy you stumbled upon us.
But y'all better follow me now, because I'm still interested in
we will
angry
follow
space.
You, Ricardo. We will follow you. Rest assured, we will follow you.
I wanted to check if there's any more questions from the floor. And Dawn?
As we wrap up, I just wanted Evelyn to I think she touched on it earlier in the session, but just to again talk about, navigating, finding a partner, finding the right partner, especially for farmers and people who work in the agricultural sector. Because often when you're in it, farming is what they say, it's a labor of love, and it's generally people's first love. And it takes so much of your time and your energy. So when you get home and you get someone, you're tired as hell, you just want to take a shower, get to bed. There's no time, it almost seems, for many
Correct.
farmers.
It's true what you say. That farming is a very neglected subculture in our society, and I hope that the farming community gets more recognition. I don't know if you're aware of this program called Australian Farmer Looks for Wife or something. It's like something you'd expect to see in the Landbouweekblad 20 years ago, but it's quite charming, really, and they are different. They're more real. They live closer to the earth. They're in touch with nature. I think it's fantastic. So I think, as with all love, we have to distinguish between passionate, mad, crazy love and companionate love. And, the two can go together, but sometimes it starts just as a friendship. And then this thing just heats up and blows up, and you're sitting with a full-blown hot love affair. And that's very exciting. But when you're in that state, of course, you idealize the person, and the emotional component is physiologically arousing. There's sexual attraction, and you want to just be in and under and this person. And companionate love is not like that, really. It's different to this kind of romantic love. But often passionate love develops into companionate love, and it's the most beautiful thing. Because you're motivated, you're attached, you're committed, you're friends. It's fantastic. Usually what happens to people is passionate love and companionate love, they cycle. They don't usually happen exactly at the same time. You go through the one, then you drop it, then you go through the other, then you go back to the other. And some people go through stages of companionate love for 6-7 years. They don't have sex. It's perfectly normal. I mean, there are no rules,
Wow, thank you so much, Evelyn. You've given us lots to think about. Lulu, definitely not how I thought the session would go. I mean, we started with buy yourself a dildo. I mean, navigating all of this, it's been great. Evelyn, you're a superstar. I love you.
Love you too. Thanks for having me. It's a great honor.
Liva Lulu is touched on her studio. Thank you so much, Evelyn,
Thanks
for helping
to
us.
all.
Bye,